Alright, I am back with another tutorial. In this demo, I'm going to deploy an application load balancer, and then I'm going to utilize the advanced request routing feature of the load balancer to engineer web traffic based on rules and conditions that we'll set up. So let's go ahead and have a look at the network diagram. So here's the network diagram that I'll be using. Basically, this is all going to take place in the US East 1 region. I'll go ahead and first create the security group for the EC2 instance, and then I'll create a security group for the application load balancer. And then I will launch the EC2 instance, install Apache, and then I'll create the application load balancer, and then I'll create listener rules and a target group. I will register the EC2 to the target group, and for the listener rules, I will go ahead and create several rules and conditions. The first rule that I'll create to engineer our web traffic is the path-based rule. The second rule will be a source IP rule, and then finally, I'm going to configure a query string rule to engineer web traffic. So let's go ahead and have a look at the AWS console to see what's already existing. So here is the AWS console. I already have my VPC already set up. I will be using VPC-A. For the subnets, I've already created 2 public subnets, and I'll be using those 2 for the application load balancer. My route tables are also already set up, and the internet gateway is already in place. So if everything goes correctly, the EC2 instance that will be deployed should have internet access out to the real world. So let's go ahead and configure our security group. First, I'll create the security group for the EC2 instance. I'll call it EC2-SG. Allow access to EC2. For VPC, I'll choose my VPC-A. And then for the rule inbound, I'll create add rule. And then I'll choose SSH, sourcing from any IP. Add another rule for web traffic, sourcing from any IP as well. And then I'll hit create security group. All right, so that's done. Next, I'll create a security group for the application load balancer. And for that, I'll call it ALB-SG. Description, allow web to ALB. VPC-A is our choice of VPC. For inbound rule, we'll simply choose HTTP, sourcing from any address. Click on create security group, and that should be done. So let's take a look. We got our 2 security groups already created here. That looks great. Let's go ahead and create our EC2 instance. All right, right now there's no instance running. So I will hit launch instance, and then I'll call this my EC2. And then for the AMI, I will choose the Amazon Linux AMI, the one that's already chosen by default. And then for the instance type, I'll leave it as T2 micro. And then for the key pair, I already have a key pair that I've created earlier, so I'll choose that one, which is my key pair. For network settings, I'll go ahead and choose VPC-A. And then for the subnet, it's already populated for me for the VPC-A public subnet. I'll be sure to enable the public IPv4 address so we can SSH into the EC2 instance. For the security group of the EC2 instance, I will select the EC2-SG security group I created earlier. Everything looks good. Go ahead and hit launch instance. All right, that looks good. Let's go ahead and hit refresh, and there's our 1 instance. And if we check this, we can see more details for it. Go into the networking tab and you'll see the public IPv4 address. Copy that into your clipboard. For the terminal, I'm going to use Microsoft Visual Studio Code. And then for here, I will look for my downloaded key pair that I've created earlier. So ls-la star.pem, what is it called? It's called my key pair. And permissions is already changed. So what I'll do is I'll ssh-i my key pair and the login username, which is ec2-user at the public IP address of the EC2 instance. That should give me access to it now. There it is. And then from here, I can do some updates. And then I'll install HTTPD. All right, that looks good. Start HTTPD and then enable. One other thing I need to do is create an index HTML file in the HTML directory. So that way, when we pull up the IP address of the EC2 server, it will display a message telling us we have accessed the server. So I will say cd/var/www/html, and then I'll hit index.html. I'm going to create this file here. Hello, this message is from EC2 server. Control C. All right. All right, cool. So that should work. So let's test that out. Let's go back into our browser, copy the IP address, public IP address of the server, pull up a new tab, put that in, hit enter, and there it is. Hello, this message is from EC2 server. Okay, so that's the default HTML index.html page served up by the server. So the next thing we need to do is, so we did this part right here. So let's create the application load balancer. Go back to the console, type in load balancer, click on that, and then create load balancer. We will choose application load balancer. Create, give it a name, my ALB, internet facing, IPv4. We'll choose VPCA. We will choose AZ1 and AZ2. And then for security group, I'm going to choose my ALB. Oh, one more thing, guys. Let me go ahead and enable the cursor for easy viewing. All right, this is better now. You can see where my mouse is. Okay, back to this. Okay, so subnet 1 and subnet 2, I checked those. Security group, I've chosen the ALB-SG that I created earlier. And then for the listeners and routing, we're going to go ahead and leave it as HTTP and port 80. And right now there's no security group for us, or there's no target group for us, so we need to create a target group. Okay, so we need to create the target group, and the target type is going to be instances. Target group name is my-tg protocol HTTP on port 80. VPCA is where we want to have it associated with. Health checks, leave it as default, and hit next. Okay. Click on that. Create target group. Targets, Register targets, okay. Include as pending is what I forgot to do earlier. And then I'll hit register target groups. Okay, so now it says one target registered successfully. And that happens to be the EC2 instance. So let's take a look at the diagram again. So basically, I registered this EC2 instance that I deployed into my-tg target group. So that way, when rules come in, when traffic comes in, the rules will redirect traffic to the target group as needed. All right, let's go back here and let's go back to the application load balancer. Where we left off was that we needed to create listeners and routing. There was no target group, but we just created one. So if I hit refresh, it should populate, and there it is, my-tg. All right, and we don't need to add any more listeners, so that's good to go. And we'll hit create load balancer. All right, that's being created. Provisioning is pending. Give it some time here. Let's take a look at our target group to see how it's doing. Click on that. We're waiting for this healthy to show up one instance. We need one healthy instance, which is our one EC2 server. Refresh again. Not yet. That's probably because the load balancer is still provisioning. Okay, give it some time. All right, guys, I am back. I just unpaused the video just to see if it's done yet, and it's still not done. This usually takes about a minute or so. So let me go ahead, hit pause again, and then I'll be back when it's done. All right, I am back, and the status finally shows active. So that took about a good minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes to finally provision successfully. So let's go back to our target group. We can now refresh this and see that the healthy should show up as one instance. And there it is, one healthy instance. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and go to our load balancer. Actually, let's take a look at the network diagram and see where we're at right now. So we created the application load balancer. We created a listener on port 80 HTTP, and we created the target group, associated the EC2 to the target group. Now we need to create rules and conditions on our application load balancer. So let's go ahead and do that. The first one we're going to do is create a path-based rule. So let's go ahead and do that on the load balancer. And if I say, click on this, listeners and rules, and then I'll say manage rules, we're going to add a rule here. Add a rule, because we don't have any rule yet. We'll call my first rule. All right, hit next. All right, we're going to say add condition. For the first one, we're going to say path. The condition is path. So if our URL has a path of /eBay/ then what do? We say we're going to redirect that to the eBay website. All right, for status code, we'll say found. So if our URL has a ending in a /eBay/, it's going to redirect the web traffic to the eBay website. Hit next. We'll give it a priority of 1 for now. Hit next. And it's good to go. Create. All right, so how do we test this out? Well, we need to go back into the application load balancer. And then we need the load balancer's DNS name, the fully qualified name there. Right? So copy that there and then go back here and paste in the load balancer's name. And then for the URL path, if our request has a /eBay slash, hit enter. The rule says if the condition is met, I'm going to redirect you to the eBay website. And there it is. So that's that. So we know that rule is working. Now let's go back and click on this. My first rule again, action, edit rule. Hit next. And then on this one, we're going to add a condition. This time, we're going to say source IP. All right? If the source IP is whatever my IP address is, let's see what my IP address is. What is my IP address, right? So click on that. And mine is right now this guy. So I copy, I paste here. My IP is give it /32. All right. So the condition is my source IP. I hit next. If my source IP is this, forward it to, this time, forward it to the target group. Which target group? The one that we have, the my-tg. All right, I'll hit next. This time, give it a priority of 1. Save changes. So here in this rule, it says the condition if my source IP is coming from this address and if the path is this, then do something. But actually, I want to edit this real quick. Action, edit rule. Next. I don't want to use the path on this one. I'm going to delete this. I just want to use the source IP. Hit next. And so if the source IP is that IP, forward it to the EC2 instance. Next, priority of 1. Save changes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the DNS name for the application load balancer. Copy, paste. So now when I hit enter, I should see the EC2 server serve up that message index.html file. And there it is. Hello, this message is from EC2 server, because that's what we created earlier, right? So basically, because the rule says if you're coming from a source IP specifically, I'm going to forward you to the target group. All right, so that's done. Let's go back into the rule. Click on this. We're going to go ahead and edit this rule. Next. Let's go ahead and delete this guy. Let's add a new condition. This time we're going to say query string. All right, so what is the key? The key is provider. The value is Microsoft. All right, we'll hit confirm. And then we'll hit next. And what will it do? It's going to redirect to a certain URL. So we'll just say www.microsoft.com. Right? So we'll hit next. So the rule says after your ALB DNS name, if it follows with a question mark provider equals Microsoft, right? Because the question mark is the query string, then it's going to redirect you to the Microsoft website. Hit next. Save changes. All right, let's test it out. So we're here, right? The DNS name of the ALB / question mark provider equals Microsoft. That's a query string. And it brings us to the Microsoft website. Okay, so that is that. So we did basically all three tests here. We created three separate conditions, and we redirected to certain targets, right? So let's go ahead and remove everything. Go back to our target groups, refresh, deregister the EC2 instance from the target group, right? Disassociate that, okay? And then now we can, zero healthy, now we can delete the target group. Oops, there's one listener rule. Let's go ahead and get rid of that listener rule. Action, delete rule. Confirm. All right, that's deleted. So let's go back and hopefully we can delete the target group now. Oh, still thinking. Give it some time. Oh, okay, let's go back to the listener rule. Refresh. Oh, let's go ahead and delete this listener rule. Okay, that's done. Let's go ahead and delete the target group now. Refresh. Action, delete. Okay, target group is deleted. The load balancer, we need to delete the load balancer as well. All right, that's done. No more load balancers, as you can see. And then for the EC2 instance, we need to shut that down. Refresh. Refresh. Oh, that's already shut down, it looks like. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, that's my old one. Let's go ahead and shut this down. Instance state, terminate. Okay, so this is the current EC2 instance. Okay, so that's being shut down. Hit refresh. And one last thing we got to do is the security group. But I don't think it's going to allow us to delete that until the EC2 is fully terminated. But let's give it a try here. Refresh, refresh. It's going to delete this one. Okay, it's still being associated with the EC2 because that's not fully shut down yet. Shutting down now. Give it some time here. Let's try this again. Got action, delete security group. Okay, still being associated. Refresh. No load balancer, no target group. Okay, nothing there. EC2, where are we at now? Okay, they're both terminated. Okay, now we can delete the security group. Delete. Refresh. All right, so that's done. So everything's cleaned up. Everything's cleaned up. So there you have it, guys. We created the application load balancer, deployed the EC2 instance, registered to the target group, added some rules, and used the ALB's advanced request routing feature to direct our web traffic to destinations. So hopefully that helps you guys with your configuration, and I will be working on another video shortly.